We're glad to have you along for this Agriculture Today, where first off, we catch up on the cattle market trends. And for a look at those markets, we'll turn now to a livestock economist out of Iowa State University, Lee Schulz, who contributes his thoughts to the trends in these trades. We'll talk as well about new information that the USDA is providing to the cattle sector. More on that a little later. Lee, the cash and futures trades this past week, the fed cattle market on the cash side gave up a couple of more dollars. This market seems to be somewhat in a sluggish pattern now.
Well, I think we're really in the doldrums of summer when we look at the seasonal pressure. You know, cash prices pushed lower this last week. I think that contributed to futures prices lower. Also, we did get a fair bit of bearish news as we look throughout the week and responded to the week earlier. Cattle on feed report was rather bearish when we looked at the placement numbers. The cattle inventory report, I think, showed that continued expansion and more supplies likely coming available. We had some news that Japan was going to raise tariffs. Year to date, they're up 30%. So likely an impact on some of that export demand there. I think all those factors really started to weigh on the market, and that's what we've seen happen this last week.
You mentioned the cattle on feed report, and a week ago this past Friday, the monthly cattle on feed report was issued, along with that mid-year cattle inventory report, which has now been reinstated. As you looked at those numbers, what stood out to you of importance for the long term in these markets?
Well, I think in general, the cattle inventory report did confirm continued expansion, but I think we are starting to slow that expansionary phase. When I look for the remainder part of this year and beginning part of next year, really what I was focused on is the all cattle on feed number. Now, that number in the cattle inventory report was 6% higher than 2 years ago. Remember, we didn't have a report year ago levels. But also, I think that contributes to the understanding of what's going on with placement numbers. If you recall from the cattle on feed report, we've seen placement numbers up 16%, well above expectations, over 10% up above expectations. So that was a little bit surprising. But once you dig into those numbers, I don't think it's as bearish as maybe it first appeared. It showed we really pulled ahead feeder cattle. Much higher numbers of lightweight cattle were placed on feed. And also here in Iowa, we have a less than 1,000 head capacity cattle on feed survey. And those numbers showed placements were down 30% year over year. So I think while we've seen them up in the regular cattle on feed report, when you look at all that in aggregate, those numbers maybe aren't as big as the markets are reflecting.
Lee, there's also been a recent USDA cold storage report posted. What did it have to say?
When you look at the cold storage report, this would be as of mid-year, so we're looking at what it was in June. Inventories were lower than a year ago level. That is very consistent with the export story that we've seen. We've seen considerable increase in exports and less imports. But I think they were a little bit higher than maybe we expected. If you look at compared to the previous month, they were a little bit higher, about 1%. And so I think, this isn't going to change prices in any regards, but it does show that, we've really been able to maintain that export growth. Mm-hmm. This is one factor to really watch as we continue to see these fed cattle supplies build up, and if we're continue to keep moving this product.
It is critical that exports maintain a good, brisk pace in that event. In the absence of that, these markets might be hurting even more, would they not?
Well, I think so. When you look at, we have considerable growth in proteins. If you look at pork or the poultry sector, so there's considerable competition for consumers' dollars. And we've seen, consumers continue to purchase more. That's why we've continued to see packers come back for more cattle and pay higher prices because of that strong demand situation. But part of that is that export demand. So we're really counting on that for the remainder of the year and as we go forward.
All right. Well, this past Tuesday, July the 25th, the USDA unveiled a new report. It's called the Weekly Fed Cattle Comprehensive Report. You might talk about the genesis of this report, what led to it coming together, and exactly what it covers, Lee.
Well, I'm pretty excited about this report. I think it does a lot of the calculations that analysts were doing themselves. So this really puts it at a one-stop shop for interested readers, market participants to really follow these markets. Because it really does do a lot of the data analysis that we were doing behind the scenes and trying to provide on a up-to-date basis. What it does here is it really combines negotiated formula, forward contract, prices in really one report. And also, what I really like to see in this report is that it's highlighting the differences between beef and dairy. As we've seen fed cattle prices increase, we've really seen that discount on dairy starting to widen. And so I think that helps highlight what that discount is and how that's changing from week to week.
So does this give, as the name would imply, a more comprehensive picture of actual trading trends in the industry, do you think?
It does. And the one that really, I think, makes it the comprehensive that it does is it does a lot of the spread comparisons. Mm-hmm. So, I mentioned the beef minus the dairy type, but also it shows you the formula minus negotiated. So it gives you some sense of, where those prices are in relation to each other. And, instead of having to look at this from a historical standpoint, we can really look at this from week to week and see where those prices are. Historically, we've seen that when cash prices are increasing, we do see that negotiated trade really lead. When prices are decreasing, we really see that formula starting to lead in prices. Right now, what we are seeing is the formula right now is above the negotiated, which we would expect as we've kind of seen some downward in the market. But I think as we start to see some seasonal increases, that's really one thing to watch if the negotiated market does take off.
Well, in the cause of price discovery in the cattle sector, which we've talked of before, this is a good move, it would appear. The USDA also, as of today, is revising its National Weekly Direct Slaughter Cattle Prior Week Slaughter and Contract Purchases Report. And remind us what that is and what revisions are being made here, if you would.
Well, in this report, it shows the prior week slaughtered formula and forward contract, the head count, also shows the packer-owned cattle that are being slaughtered. And the third part of this report is what they are revising, and this is the forward contract purchases. And this is really it shows you the weekly number as well as the running total. And what I like to use this report for is to show how many cattle are committed in the market. To show are we running ahead or behind year-ago levels, to really show you if packers are going to be after cattle in the coming weeks and months. Also, it shows you a basis estimate for those forward contracts, and that's what USDA is revising. If those cattle were to be delivered more than 30 days beyond when they are committed, previously they would have put a zero basis in. Now they're just going to leave that blank, and I think that reflects more of what the situation is and is not going to really muddy the waters when we look in that contemporaneous month of what those basis estimates are. Those basis estimates are a little bit difficult to get a read on because they also do include dairy cattle in there, so we do see some rather large basis, wide basis below what the futures market is. But I think what it's really going to do is help us get a better sense of what those basis numbers are, and maybe not muddy it up with the fact that, we're looking at cattle beyond 30 days being delivered.
So that'll be a helpful change. It's due out in the most recent edition of that report, which will be released later on today. Well, Lee, as we close out here, the fed cattle market once again has had a hard time finding momentum to the upside. What are your expectations for the trade this week?
Well, I think one is we're likely to see some volatility here, especially when we look at Monday as investors position on the final trading day of July. We see that from month to month, so I think we could see a bit of volatility from that. When you look at historical tendencies, both if you look at the cutout or the live cattle futures, first week of August has been a great week the last couple of years. 6 out of the 7 years, we've seen the choice cutout up the first week. You could see a similar trend in that live cattle future. So I think this week is really going to be a barometer for where prices are going to be heading in the short term. given we've maybe pushed past the seasonal low in the market. And if we can really gain some steam, I think that will really show where the market's maybe headed in the coming weeks.
Well, that would be a favorable development, some upward movement in these markets. And Lee, we always appreciate your comments and your input. Many thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Lee Schulz with us on Agriculture Today. He is a livestock economist at Iowa State University. And we'll return with more after this break. You're listening to the K-State Radio Network.
Man, it's hot out here. Heat stress affects more than just humans. It also affects livestock. Extreme heat, humidity, wind speeds, and cloud cover all make a difference in air temperature. To control problems, make sure your livestock have shade and water provided at all times. This will help prevent problems in breeding, meat production, and reduce chances of death. Please take all these into consideration for livestock production. Brought to you by K-State Animal Science Leadership Academy participants.
Welcome back. You're listening to Agriculture Today. As of August the 1st, the Cooperative Extension Service at Kansas State University will be led by a new Associate Director of Extension at K-State. He was just named a couple of weeks back, and he'll be assuming the post officially tomorrow. Gregg Hadley is with us, and we wanted to give folks an opportunity to hear his vision for the Extension Service in Kansas. Gregg, welcome once again. Of course, folks are familiar with you. You're not new to Extension at K-State, right?
That's right. For the past almost 6 years now, I've been serving as the Ag, Natural Resources, and Community Development Program Leader.
And we've had chances to visit with you in the past. We also should note, as we talk about your background, that you are an agricultural economist by trade and, in fact, have time logged in the area of farm succession planning.
That's right. Prior to coming here for just a little bit under 10 years, I was a farm management specialist up at University of Wisconsin River Falls and University of Wisconsin Extension. While there, I had 3 specialty areas: farm financial management, human resource management, and farm succession. And when I came down here, we kind of kept up with the farm succession work.
And you've been out in the state with colleagues
Yes.
here at K-State
Yeah.
and presenting information on that very topic, so
Yes.
folks might recognize you from those efforts in the past 6 years or so. But now you move up from Assistant Director of Extension at K-State for Agricultural and Natural Resources Programs to the Associate Directorship. What's driven you toward this?
Well, I think that, first of all, I'm just passionate about Extension and the work that we do and want to see it continue. I want to see us become more impactful. I want us to be more responsive to the state. And also I want to make it a better career for our Extension professionals, a more rewarding career. And so that has kind of led me into this direction of going further into the Extension leadership role.
And now we're walking into your outlook for Extension and what you hope to achieve with Extension in Kansas. What do you see as the current state of Extension in the state?
I think currently, as far as our service to the people, I think that it is strong. I think that helping Kansas address the grand challenges of global food systems, water, health, community vitality, and developing tomorrow's leaders is needed as much today as it has ever been. And so I see that continuing. I would like to see our response time improve as far as addressing issues and things like that. I would like to see more industry and external stakeholder involvement in maybe doing needs analysis, collaboration, and things like that too. So I think we can see more of that in the future.
So how does one attain those impacts that you're talking of right there? Quicker responsiveness, more interaction with stakeholders?
A few things. I think that one of the things as far as being more responsive, we have to be able to have a greater information flow into the organization. By that I mean we're already set up really well with our program development committees and our extension boards, funneling information through our agents about local needs. I would like to see another source of information coming from those external stakeholder groups. Those could be producer groups like KLA. They could be government agency groups like KDA or KDHE or any numerous ways. And so probably we'll have some external advisory committees that we're going to be setting up to help provide us with that information as well. And just getting that information coming in about needs, about the educational demands that Kansans want, I think that's going to be really helpful in getting us to the next step of being more timely. The other thing I look towards in the future is much more technology-delivered information. Face-to-face is always going to be necessary, but under the right conditions, we should be utilizing technology more and getting the information out into the hands of those that need it in a way that they want to receive it too.
So all of this is on the program side, that is the delivery of information from this land-grant university. Mm-hmm. There are other elements involved here, one of which is the actual structure of extension. We all know that Extension has been embracing the idea of counties forming districts for some years now, well over a couple of decades. Will momentum continue in that direction?
I think momentum will continue in that direction. We have had lots of local units the past couple years talk about pursuing districting. We've recently added the newest district, Cottonwood District, to the fold. And so I look for more districts coming under the fold. And so in the next 3 years or so, I would expect more counties and a greater number of districts.
So the district model has proven its merits, it would appear.
The district model has proven its merits, and it's proven its merits from a local funding stability side of things, and it's also proved its merits from an agent specialization. And so by combining 3 or 4 counties together, you get a critical mass of people to enable you to have a couple of family and consumer science agents, maybe one looking at family resources, the other one looking at health, having a few ag agents that one specializing in crops, one in livestock, perhaps another in horticulture. And then also having the all-important 4-H youth development agent, have a specialized agent so it's not duties that are tacked on to the duties of an FCS and or an ag agent.
The common thread in everything, it seems, Gregg, is funding and the availability of that. There are definite challenges there, aren't there, given budgetary considerations at the state level and the like? There
are some intense challenges there, especially when we're looking, from my perspective, at the county, the local units framework, because their revenue stream is now capped. And even though there looks to be some positive movement with regards to how taxes are collected in the next few years, we're in a down economy. And so that's naturally going to suppress things for a little while longer, too. But there are, when you look at the state side of things, and it's probably a little bit more positive than it was a couple years ago, overall, it's still not as good as it was 10, 12, 15 years ago. And so what concerns me most is the fact that, it's a shrinking pie, and as funds decrease, the number of people that we can service decreases. And so it's my hope that we start looking more at partnerships with some of the external stakeholders We've experimented quite a bit with that in our community vitality programming, and in fact, through external funders, we have been able to finance new extension specialists out in the field, having operating dollars for those, and those are tied to specific issues. And the Dane Hansen organization has funded extension programming for community vitality needs in the Northwest. And then most recently, the Kansas Masons has provided funding to help expand our Pride community development programs. And I think that if you look at specific issues, there are organizations and even individuals that are willing to put money forward to help address those extension issues.
So it comes back to extension in Kansas, as with other states, needing to look at innovative ways of outreach.
Yes, I think if we sit back and wait for government funds to increase, we may be waiting a long time. And there are needs that need to be addressed, and we just have to be more entrepreneurial in how we address those needs.
So you're enthused about where this is headed and what the future may hold for extension, which may not mirror exactly extension of 30 years ago, but nonetheless can remain viable.
Oh, I think so. As long as we are addressing the needs of the people of Kansas in the way that they want to receive their information, I think that we're going to be fine. We're always going to be needed. We've had water challenges for the past 100 years.
Right.
We've had agricultural production and food issues for the past 100 years. Health is always going to be an issue. Developing tomorrow's leaders is always going to be an issue. And making our communities more vital is going to be an issue now and into the future. And so because of those needs, I expect extension to be there. How we do it may be different than what we did 50 years ago.
Well, we're wishing you, of course, all the best as you take the helm as the Associate Director of Extension at K-State, and looking forward to visiting with you, working with you in these years ahead, Gregg. Congratulations on the new appointment.
Thank you.
Gregg Hadley, once again, he was recently named the new Associate Director of Extension out of Kansas State University. You're listening to Agriculture Today. We'll be back in a few moments with more here on the K-State Radio Network.
Have you ever thought about where your food comes from? If you're thinking the grocery store, think again. Facts show that the American farmer feeds more than 129 people.
They are continually increasing and improving their operations. A wide variety of crops and livestock are grown in Kansas as well as the United States, providing food to your dinner plate.
Next time you see a farmer or rancher, thank them. For more information, contact K-State Research and Extension.
You're tuned in to the Monday edition of Agriculture Today from Kansas State University. Eric Atkinson here. And now to today's agricultural news headlines in brief for you, these courtesy in part of DTN. Well, we referred to this in our visit with Iowa State University's Lee Schulz earlier in what may be one of the first consequences for the U.S. for backing out of the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Japan has announced an automatic tariff rate increase on imports of frozen beef from the U.S. An increase from 38.5% to 50% will begin tomorrow and last through March the 31st of next year. According to the USDA, this tariff hits only exporters from countries, including the U.S., that do not have free trade agreements with Japan. Now, the Japanese government announced that as a result of rising frozen beef imports during the first quarter, the safeguard was triggered in the WTO on frozen beef from the U.S. USDA Secretary Sonny Perdue said he's concerned that Japan's action will harm future bilateral agreements with that country. U.S. beef and beef product exports to Japan totaled $1.5 billion last year, according to the USDA, making it the top U.S. market. When President Trump decided to back out of the TPP, agriculture interest groups immediately began pressing the administration to work on a bilateral trade agreement with Japan. National Cattlemen's Beef Association President Craig Uden said the President and Congress need to move on such an agreement in light of this latest news. Also, according to the U.S. Meat Export Federation, first quarter U.S. beef sales to Japan have increased by 42% since last year. In addition to the U.S., the 50% tariff would apply to imports from Canada, New Zealand, and again other countries that do not have free trade agreements with Japan. The call by the Trump administration to address issues under the U.S.-Korea free trade agreement is raising concern from the U.S. beef industry that they could lose benefits that have been gained from the trade deal. Under that agreement, the U.S. beef industry has seen an 82% increase in annual sales to South Korea from $582 million in 2012 to just over $1 billion in 2016, according to officials from the NCBA, the North American Meat Institute, and the U.S. Meat Export Federation, that in a letter to U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer and USDA Secretary Sonny Perdue. The letter said we would not support any changes in the term of the agreement that would jeopardize either our market share or the significant investment that has been made in rebuilding Korean consumer confidence in the safety, quality, and consistency of U.S. beef. Demonstrating increased communication with his Mexican counterpart, Secretary Perdue has been in the Yucatan Peninsula. It was last week, touring a pork processing facility and talking trade. More on that trip from the USDA's Rod Bain.
We had the opportunity to lay the groundwork on a personal basis regarding agricultural issues of NAFTA, and we've developed a good basis of trust and respect and mutual candor with one another.
Agriculture Secretary Sonny Perdue discussing the relationship built with his counterpart from Mexico, Jose Calzada Rovirosa, beginning with last month's meeting in Georgia and follow-up meetings this week in Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula. Among the itinerary items over the two-day visit, tours of various agricultural and transportation sites in the region, such as
their fort here in the peninsula, looking at a U.S. ship coming directly from New Orleans.
Panel discussions between U.S. and Mexican ag leaders and producers, as well as a joint press conference Friday at an opportunity between U.S. Agriculture Secretary Perdue and Mexican Ag Secretary Calzada to discuss and build upon collaboration on ag trade issues between the two nations. I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
Now, tensions have grown in the agricultural trade relationship with Mexico ever since the president began pressuring both Canada and Mexico to renegotiate NAFTA. As a result, Mexican lawmakers and grain buyers have increasingly talked since the beginning of the year about striking up more trade with South American countries such as Brazil and Argentina. Secretary Perdue downplayed some of that saber rattling on Friday, pointing to the integration of agricultural supply management between the U.S. and Mexico. Want to point out once again that that series of Kansas Livestock Association, Kansas State University Ranch Management Field Days has been set up for this coming month of August. The first field day is scheduled for August the 17th at the Black Diamond Angus Ranch near Spearville in southwest Kansas. Mark Diederich Family Farms, the site of the August 22nd field day at Greenleaf in Washington County, north central Kansas, and DL Cattle Company will host the August 23rd field day at their pasture near Fredonia in southeast Kansas. On all three programs, Oklahoma State University livestock entomologist Justin Talley. He'll present fly and tick control tips at all three events. Other program details will be finalized in the coming days. Each of these field days will start at 3:30 in the afternoon and will conclude with the beef dinner at 6:45. Keep abreast of further developments on these programs. The KLA K-State Ranch Management Field Days are set up now, and you can find out more information at www.kla.org, kla.org. On we go now to this week's edition of Tree Tales from the Kansas Forest Service at K-State. Here's K-State Forester Bob Atchison. Bob?
Wild plums are the best of Kansas native fruit. Early Native Americans and pioneers relied on them heavily. Sandhill plum is ripening now and can be found in all parts of Kansas. The fruit ranges in sizes from dimes to quarters and in color from pale yellow to a dark red when ripened. Different thickets seem to ripen at different times, meaning plum picking can last most of the summer and sometimes through September. Sandhill plum obtains a 3 to 4 foot height and requires full sun to thrive. It can form dense thickets which provide excellent wildlife habitat. Jams, jellies, and wines are some of the more popular products made from the fruit. True to its name, Sandhill thrives in sandy soils and has a rapid growth rate. Sandhill plum produces little white flowers mid-April of each year, which turn into the delicious fruit Kansans enjoy. It is an excellent choice for windbreaks and wildlife plantings. Birds and mammals nest in or beneath the shrubs and gorge on the fruit when it ripens. Unlike American plum, Sandhill plum leaves are narrow, which is how it earned its Latin name, Augustifolia. The shrub may be ordered through the Kansas Forest Service Conservation Tree Planting Program in the spring or fall of the year. Now is a great time to begin planting a tree or shrub planting. Additional information may be obtained by contacting the Kansas Forest Service at 785-532-3310 or check us out on the web at www.kansasforest.org. This is Bob Atchison, and you've been listening to another Tree Tale.
Thanks, Bob. And this is Agriculture Today.
Did you eat today? Thank a farmer. A way to get more involved in agriculture is through 4-H and FFA. Through 4-H and FFA, we have been given multiple opportunities to grow as leaders and learn more about agriculture.
You can learn skills related to jobs, public speaking skills, and you get the opportunity to travel around the country and meet new people.
If you want more information about getting more involved in 4-H and FFA, visit them on their websites at kansasffa.org and kansas4h.org.
This Agriculture Today concludes on the Kansas 4-H beat. And yes, we are still well in the midst of the county fair season around Kansas, although the schedule is starting to wind down. We'll cover this week's fair agenda in a few moments here. Of course, one of the keynote parts of the county fair, as far as 4-H goes, would be the livestock exhibits. And this week, we're visiting with K-State Research and Extension 4-H specialist Pam van Horn about the educational and development value of livestock projects, the learning aspect, if you will. There are certain skills that are clearly developed as a product of livestock activities, right?
Oh, that is so true, Eric. The livestock projects, really, I think the first thing you think about that a young person learns is responsibility. Mm-hmm. The responsibility of taking care of the animal. There is responsibility of making sure that that animal is fed twice a day and has plenty of water and is well taken care of.
They also learn, of course, about the nature of the beast itself, though.
Oh, so true. I mean, they take care of the animal, but if they're excited about this animal, then they can learn more about it, whether it's the science of the animal, the biology, how the animal grows, what to feed it. There is so much about the livestock project that lends itself to many of their classroom works, and I think we want to come back to that STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and math. And you think about that animal, as I said, you have chemistry, you have biology for sciences, and then the math just to know the rate of gain, how many pounds of grain you feed the animal. Many times it might be the first basic project into the sciences.
Right. Now, livestock projects go back to the very origins of 4-H. For those who don't know, there's a wide assortment of livestock-oriented activities beyond the county fair, right?
Oh, so true. I think we first see the animals and we think, oh, we get to take it to the show, or we get to take it to the fair, we get to show it, we wash it, we brush it, we let that animal look as presentable as possible. But there are other key activities involved in the animal projects, and that can be the judging, which is really a great decision-making skill that you can learn from judging. There's Quiz Bowl, which you learn different aspects, whether the different breeds, how to take care of it. The questions are just wide variety of questions that can come. And then we do a skillathon, which is more of the practical stuff. It may be, we feed animals a lot of grains, and sometimes we don't know what that grain mixture is, so they'll ask questions about the grains, they'll ask equipment, because we are so getting removed from the farm that a lot of our young people really need to know that basics of how do I take care of the animal.
And we've talked of this before. There's something for all ages within this livestock project umbrella, isn't there?
Oh, yes. We break it down into age-appropriate techniques or what they need to know. There's a lot of just basic things, how to brush, how to take care, how to lead, up to maybe that's for your younger age kids to you can really get into the sciences of it. You talk about the ruminant animal, you talk about the 4 compartments, especially in your teenage years. You really can delve into some of those more biology and chemistry aspects of the animal.
As we look at the calendar, Pam, a couple of the more high-profile livestock-oriented 4-H events actually are still ahead, not even including the state fair, which is, of course, not that far away. The livestock sweepstakes, the junior dairy show, perfect examples of what you're talking about here.
Yes, Eric. Those are great opportunities. There's a judging contest at each of those. There's a quiz bowl, a skillathon. Also, with the sweepstakes, we have a meats judging contest. So you take it from hoof to the food animal to know what you're getting the products there. But these are wonderful activities that you can participate and not even exhibit an animal, but it also expands your knowledge of the animal science project areas.
So where can a parent and or youth learn about the complete suite of livestock activities within Kansas 4-H?
Contacting your local extension office first in each of the extension units across the state. The information is also available on our 4-H website. So the information's out there. You just need to go and search for it. And the deadlines are coming up soon to be entered into these events.
Pam, appreciate your time, as always.
Thank you, Eric.
And talking over the learning value of 4-H livestock projects, that's Pam van Horn, Research and Extension 4-H Specialist here at K-State. And rounding out this segment with our quick rundown of the county fairs this week. Fairs wrapping up today, the Allen County Fair at Iola, the Montgomery County Fair at Independence, the Morris County Fair at Council Grove, the Osborne County Fair at Osborne, the Riley County Fair at Manhattan, the Greenwood County Fair at Eureka, and the Nemaha County Fair at Seneca, concluding today. These fairs conclude tomorrow, the Phillips County Fair at Phillipsburg and the Wabaunsee County Fair at Alma. Fairs ongoing and concluding Thursday, the Graham County Fair at Hill City, the Chase County Fair at Cottonwood Falls, and the Butler County Fair at El Dorado. Ongoing through Saturday, the Northwest Kansas Fair at Goodland. These fairs open today, run through Thursday, the Jackson County Fair at Holton and the Jefferson County Fair at Valley Falls. Starting today, running through Saturday, the Johnson County Fair at Gardner. And opening tomorrow, running through Saturday, the Decatur County Fair at Oberlin and the North Central Kansas Fair at Belleville. Starting Wednesday, running through Saturday, the Cheyenne County Fair at St. Francis, the Crawford County Fair at Girard, the Greeley County Fair at Tribune, and the Rush County Fair at La Crosse. Opening Wednesday, running through Sunday, the Pottawatomie County Fair at Onega. Starting Wednesday, running through next Monday, the Central Kansas Fair at Abilene. And opening on Thursday, running through Saturday, the Franklin County Fair at Lane. Starting Thursday, running through Sunday, the Sumner County Fair at Caldwell. And the Cowley County Fair at Winfield. And beginning Thursday, running through Saturday the 12th, the Lyon County Fair at Emporia. Then Friday through Saturday, the Elk County Fair at Longton. Friday through Tuesday the 8th, the Harvey County Fair at Newton. And Friday through Saturday the 12th, the Lynn County Fair at Blue Mound. That's your county fair lineup for this week. And our time for this Monday edition. Thanks for listening. Eric Atkinson here. This has been Agriculture Today over the K-State Radio Network.